That was footage from last week's very real earthquake off the coast of Northern California. Natural and man-made disasters have always been a part of life, something that Hollywood producers have picked up on and turned into a very successful film genre. But why do we love watching disaster movies so much? I recently went to a screening of one of the most successful disaster films ever made that will also be celebrating an anniversary this week to try and find out.
Now, you know there's no sure way for us to fight a fire in anything over the 7th floor. But you guys just keep building them as high as you can.
With its epic scale, all-star cast, and groundbreaking special effects, 1974's The Towering Inferno set the standard for disaster films during a decade that celebrated the genre like never before.
Work it around! Up there!
The action takes place at the world's tallest building, which catches fire on its opening night.
Gotta move all these people out of here.
Trapping a group of A-list partygoers on the highest of its 138 floors. The film was so big, it took 2 studios to finance it and featured a huge ensemble cast that included some of the biggest names of the day. Paul Newman, Steve McQueen, Faye Dunaway, William Holden, and Fred Astaire, who won a Best Supporting Oscar for his performance in the film. And on Monday, the trailblazing movie marks the 50th anniversary of its release. To celebrate the movie's milestone, many independent theaters are holding special screenings.
Welcome to tonight's presentation of The Towering Inferno.
You ready to see some disaster movies?
Let's go.
I got a chance to rewatch the film with Screen Crush editor-in-chief Matt Singer at Fort Lee, New Jersey's Barrymore Film Center. Irwin Allen's production of... Irwin Allen was like the king of disaster
The
movies.
master of disaster. Towering Inferno. I mean, like you said, one of the ultimate disaster movies and the most successful. It was the #1 movie of 1974.
Look,
so
Steve McQueen, Paul Newman, uber stars.
They almost didn't make the movie together because they couldn't decide whose name will be first.
So who won out? I can't recall.
Well, they invented a billing that had never been used in movies before. That was their solution, one a little lower on the left, a little higher on the right.
The Towering Inferno earned a whopping $200 million at the box office.
This is real water, real fire. There's no green screens here.
Get down!
But it was just one of over 30 disaster movies released during the decade, including Earthquake, Airport, and The Poseidon Adventure.
Oh my God.
What makes these so entertaining to watch?
When you think of big Hollywood movies, we tend to think of escapism. And here we have movies that are about these horrible catastrophes, the things that we tend to want to escape from thinking about for 2 hours when we go to the movies. But I think what it comes down to ultimately are 2 things. One, even though there is some sort of tragedy that's happening, and a lot of characters do die, there are always that handful that survive. And so what happens is, we in the audience are safe. And we like to kind of imagine what we would do in these situations and perhaps think, well, we would be the ones to survive. Then there's one other important aspect. They have tons of special effects and they have tons of movie stars. And what do people love at the movies more than special effects and movie stars?
Disaster movies got their start in the silent era, when films like 1901's Fire enthralled audiences. By the 1950s, Godzilla and invading aliens were doing the damage.
Don't go in, Jen. This won't do any good. It's the most horrible thing I've ever seen in my life.
You'll kill yourself for nothing if you explode that bomb.
20 years later, Airport and its increasingly silly sequel saw the genre inspire some serious parody, like the movie Airplane.
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
You can watch Airport 1975, and you can definitely see some of the inspiration for Airplane. You got a singing nun.
Would you take better care of yourself?
Just the most absurd scenario with an airplane that is flying, has a giant hole in it, but it's still flying straight, and there's no pilot, and the stewardess has to take over.
There's no one left to fly the plane!
So the movies are getting so absurd and so outlandish. There's nowhere to go from that point. You can't help but laugh at them. People had had enough. And that was when they sort of died out for a while.
Come on, if we don't do it now, we're all gonna die.
For the most part, Hollywood put disaster movies on the back burner for much of the 80s, but eventually the fascination returned.
But after a while, everything is cyclical. They had been gone for so long, and then movie-making technology had gotten so good that in the 1990s, people started to make them again.
What was that big comeback film?
Well, the big ones were really movies like Twister, Independence Day, and then the biggest of them all was Titanic, which is, we don't necessarily think of that as a disaster movie because...
It is the ultimate disaster film.
It really is.
We're gonna make it, Rose! Trust me!
It has lots of characters, beautiful stars, romance, tragedy, survival. It's got it all.
The 90s introduced CGI effects, and that innovation continued into the new millennium with films like The Day After Tomorrow and San Andreas.
Oh my God.
As for Matt Singer's favorite disaster title,
Boy, if you want to watch a bad disaster movie, like you're in the mood for something really silly, you're not gonna find much sillier than The Swarm. It is a disaster movie about killer bees.
The killer bees are coming! Everybody get inside!
And Michael Caine, he just looks so miserable. He looks like he's looking off camera for someone to call cut.
But I have to speak to him, and I mean right now!
He is just so angry. Not at the bees, at himself for being in this movie.
And the number of huge stars that are in these
all
films.
These, yeah.
And looking back, I mean, you know, we're children of the 70s.
Yeah.
All
of them. The Swarm, I don't know, but Poseidon Adventure, Earthquake, all those.
It's just unreal. And we love them.
We do.